Hello, fellow truth seekers. This is Doug coming to you again on this here Shabbat. A little late getting started today. I went to a little a conference kind of thing down in Charleston today. It was a speaker from the Living Church of God, Tomorrow's World, Richard Ames, and so I, decided I wanted to go down there and hear and some fellowship with other similar believers. Oh, now the cats won't start. And just because here where I'm at, I mean, I talk to people and a lot of them, say, that, I believe that, or that makes sense and all that stuff, but yet they don't live it, and I want to be in fellowship if I can. Of course, it's a long ways to go. I can't do it every week, but, just an opportunity to go and fellowship with some other believers, and so I didn't get back until kind of late, so I'm starting, and I kind of just wanted to talk some, about current events that are going on, and also, kind of tie in some things, scripturally that we're seeing, some stuff I want to suggest that you read, and you'll see that these things are, they're starting to unfold, and we don't know how it's all gonna play out ultimately. What's going on right now in the Middle East and Ukraine and all that, but we can look at scriptures and we can see this is all prophesied. Like I said, Isaiah 17, about the destruction of Damascus, Psalm 83, about how they take counsel against the people of Israel, and come, let us, destroy them from, off the face of the earth, that their name be remembered no more. Well, when you listen to what's going on, I mean, you listen to, and there's a lot of people coming into this now, what's going on over there, that before hadn't really been, kind of involved in it, as far as making their voice known, like Turkey, Erdogan, and of course his declaration is not just against the Jews. I mean, he made a statement that was, calling out, he says, if you want, the West wants conflict between the cross and the crescent, then we're ready, more than willing. Well, Turkey's supposed to be a member of NATO. But when you read Ezekiel 38, and that's what I've talked about in previous studies, is that the realignment that's going on, this realignment between nations that is beginning to happen, that is setting up the chessboard, as you if you would, for what is coming. But there's a sequence of events that have to happen. People say, are we in the, we're not in the tribulation yet. We're in the beginning of birth pains and perilous times. Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. That's why I encourage you to read these, read Psalm 83. And of course Psalm 2, the Father, he just laughs at these people and he holds them in derision because they take counsel. Because, like I said, I believe it was last week, they hate the people of Israel. But ultimately, it's not them they hate, it's God that they hate. It's Elohim that they hate. And, so that's what's really at the heart of this. And we have to, we have to really get our minds wrapped around that it's really a spiritual thing that is beginning to manifest into the physical. I've talked about that, how things that begin in the spiritual realm ultimately manifest itself into the physical world that we're in. And that's why it talks about, Paul talks about these powers and principalities and rulers of darkness in high places. That's what we're warring against. And this war, and we need to stand strong with Israel. Because as I've talked about, the Jews, and there are those over there that say that they're Jews. They're not. They're Ashkenazis. They're Khazars and different ones, the Zionists. Different people that are, the house, the tents of Japheth dwelling with the tents of Shem. But the true Jews over there. And of course, the Father said, I will bring them back into their land, and the people will know that I have done this, because I told you in advance that I was going to do this. And Isaiah, Isaiah is probably one of the greatest prophetic books in the scriptures. And it talks about, the what's going to befall these people, Jordan, Syria, Edom, Moab, and the Ishmaelites. These are all these people around them, and Assyria in there, the Syrians, and Assyria. And Assyria, of course, we know, at least it's really, evident through historical markers and migrations that the Germanic people are the ancient Assyrians. And of course, these things will really, all these things that are going on, like what's going on over in Ukraine, what's going on here now in Israel and the Middle East, will reshape the political alignments. It's already doing it. And you're going to have these powers that are going to rise up because, the Europeans, the Germans particularly, they're seeing the writing on the wall, and they realizing that, they're going to have to take control of their own defense. I mean, this is what we've done over there in Ukraine and all ain't worked out the way that we thought it would. And all it's managed to do is push China, Russia, Iran, and of course, if you go, and certain other countries are being pushed, Turkey. And I can, see Turkey, like Eric Steckelback says, they're NATO in name only, that they really, are not, when you hear their rhetoric, they're not sounding like a NATO member. And of course, when you read in Ezekiel 38, it lists this confederation of nations that will unite together. Stop that. Sorry, folks, these cats are just, they're really getting out of hand. But, Turkey's one of them, Togarmah, Gomer, and Gog of Magog. Gog, of course, is a spirit. It's an entity that is behind. It's the king or the principality that is behind Magog and Meshach and Tubal, the Russian people, those people over there, the Scythians, and also Iran or Persia. It talks about, it's Persia and Elam And, they're here in Isaiah and Amos and Joel. It talks about how that like in Isaiah 17, it talks about the Damascus being laid waste, and Aleppo, and these cities in one night being laid waste. But Israel is not going to come out of it unscathed. It says it'll be like, they'll be like an olive tree, where out on its farthest branches will be a few fruit, and on its the fruitful boughs, the real thick areas where the fruit's really heavy, is going to be very scarce. So they're going to suffer, some tremendous losses. And when you look at these proxies of Iran, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, Hamas, and how these people try and make them out to be the victim. Oh, they're the victim, and the Jews are the aggressors, the occupiers. And of course, when you look at the historical facts, I mean, these people don't care about facts. They care about narrative. And our government and the people of our government, they say, yeah, we're with Israel, they got a right to defend themselves. But now you're starting to hear more and more that no, they don't have a right to defend themselves. They're occupiers. But the truth is these people that are calling themselves Palestinians, that area right there, whenever Israel went back into the land there, the Jews, they only were occupying, and they said, in their constitution, that all people were welcome. And they did. And these people that they're calling Palestinians now, they were only in a couple of places over there. And the main area of Israel there was nobody living there. There was huge areas there that nobody lived in because they were desolate. They were wastelands. I mean, there's a quote by Mark Twain. He went over and he says, this is a wasteland. Who would want to live here? But it has, it's an unnatural hatred. And this hatred is an ancient hatred. It's a hatred that is founded from these evil spirits and evil entities that are stoking this. And you can show these people all the facts. They don't care about facts. They only care about narratives. And the truth of the matter is that these people, these Hamas and they are the ones that are the terrorists. They're the ones that don't want to live in peace. And they never have. And they never had claim to that land there. They never did. I mean, those people, they never really had, when you really go back and start looking at it, if you're honest, you find out that those people got no claim on nothing there. They never did. I mean, you go back and look at who controlled it up until 1917 at the end of, when the armistice and the end of World War I, the British controlled it and they seized it from the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire collapsed. And there was people there was Jews there, there were Arabs there, there were Christians there, they were people from everywhere there in little settlements. And so none of them people, the Palestinians in that bunch, they had, that area was called Palestine by the Romans. Up until the Romans gained control of that area and they renamed it Palestine. The fact of the matter is that probably more than anybody else, Israel controlled that land longer than any other people. I mean, going back to probably 1800 BC, during the time of Saul and David. and Moses. Back all the way back to them when they came into the land. When Joshua led the children of Israel into the land there, and those peoples that were there, the Canaanites, and the Rephaim, and the Zanzumim, and the Zunis, and the Hittites, and the Horites. Those people were all pagan as they get, and there were a lot of them that were Nephilim. They were not even pure human beings. They were corrupted human beings, or half human, they're hybrids. And they were an abomination. They were not a creation of Elohim. So he ordered them to be destroyed, because not only that, they sacrificed their children to their false gods. They worshiped Baal and Ashtoreth and Moloch and a whole host of other entities that they worshipped, Dagon, and so and they were doing abortions and that stuff, like Amalek. That Saul was told to wipe out Amalek and everybody there, man, woman, and child, and all their animals and everything else, because they were sacrificing their children to these gods, and they were doing abortions, killing them in the womb, which ought to be tell you what will happen to a nation and a people that do that allow that. I mean, look at what's going on here. And if people think that there's not judgment going to come on this nation, then they're sorely mistaken. It doesn't matter if there are people here from the tribe of Manasseh. We've been blessed because of them, because of the promises that were made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. To make a multitude of nations from him, and and their numbers would be as the stars in heaven. But because they've done the same way that they did there in Israel, they quit keeping his commandments and his statutes. They began to worship idols. And I mean, if you, like I've said before, you look here in Washington, D.C. and see what you see. And here in Isaiah chapter 48 and 49, and well, even before that, I mean, you can see, and he declares that, hey, there is no other before me. There is no other God. There is no such thing. I am it. I mean, Yahweh Elohim. That's it. There is no other. And these people were worshiping, things made by the hands of men, stone and, wood and silver and gold. That can't, don't breathe, don't see, don't hear, don't do nothing. But they bow down to these things. And, excuse me. These cats are really starting to get on my nerves now. And they just won't leave stuff alone. And so, and of course America is just really, and this is the sad fact is that nations that America has often thought of as heathen or, they're calling us out. We've always made the claim about being a Christian nation, and well, I really don't believe that. I don't believe that, just because you take on the title of something because you're born into it doesn't mean that you are a believer, that you have been truly converted. And but even like here in Africa, I mean, there's all these countries over there that are rejecting the woke ideology of transgenderism and homosexual marriage and all that stuff. They reject it. And, the United States is trying to, basically use the carrot and stick to force them to do it, saying, we just won't give you any more money, aid or whatever, if you don't do this. And they just said, well, so be it. And So, and, Britain the same way. I mean, they, doing this kind of stuff and trying to promote it in the rest of the world. Even Russia. Vladimir Putin calling America out in the West for their moral decline. I mean, whoever would have thought that? But you see, even pagan or cultures that really, they don't truly worship correctly or worship in truth. But even, Elohim will use them to call out the people that, are his people, that he's, chosen, his chosen people, the house of Israel, and of course the Jews too. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff going on over there too. I mean, they have them gay pride, marches and all that stuff over there, parades and stuff. So they're, but he's using Israel. He's going to use Israel so that the world will know that he is the one who is in control. That these things have happened because he made it happen. Like Israel being back in the, the Jews being back in the land over there. And the scriptures even tells us that this is going to happen. And they are back in the land. And that they would be a stone, a cup of trembling and a stone, this heavy stone. And anybody that tries to move this stone will be cut to pieces. And we see that I believe that's exactly what we're seeing going on now. And there's like a 5-front conflict going on here right now. And I mean, if it ain't the Psalm 83 conflict, I don't know what else it could be. Because you got the Hamas there in the south in Gaza. You got them Houthis in Yemen now joining the fray, declared war on Israel. You got Hezbollah up there in the north in southern Lebanon, Tyre. And, of course, Jordan has kind of stayed, they ain't been saying a lot, but they have been, saying some stuff. And then Saudi Arabia, the Ishmaelites, and, of course, Syria. And Iran is as Steckelback says, they're the head of the snake. They're, the ones that are supplying weapons, advisory, and that are the ones that have established these proxy armies all around Israel. And they use Syria, which is at the northern border of Israel, right beside, you got like Lebanon over here and Syria is like this. And Israel comes up like that, and over, Jordan kind of bumps down against Israel or Lebanon, and then Syria is like here. And then Israel's down here. And Syria, they've been using Syria as a distribution point and also a training ground. And because, when you read about there in Ezekiel 38 and 39 about the Gog and Magog war, it says that the Magog will have a hook in its jaw that draws it into this. And Russia has become, used to it was Iran that was kind of the junior partner between them and Russia. Well, now it's the other way around because Iran has built up all these capabilities to build drones and rockets and missiles and all this kind of stuff. I mean, they got big factories just cranking this stuff out. And because Russia is in this conflict over in Ukraine, they are not capable of producing enough to sustain this war against the West, because all Ukraine is a proxy and of the West, the United States and Europe. And so they've been getting arms from Iran, these drones and missiles and stuff. And also from North Korea, they've been getting them. So this very alliance that it talks about in Ezekiel 38 and 39 is forming. And this hooks in the jaw of Magog, Meshach and Tubal, Russia, has been hooked, set. And, that now they're having to side with their compatriots. And of course, the saying is you can tell the character of somebody's, their character by the company they keep. North Korea, China, Iran, Syria, and Russia's in Syria. They've been over there for several years. And so, and they're calling, they're calling Israel, Nazis, and, Putin is calling them, like Nazis and, that kind of stuff. And, of course, they are surrounded by their enemies. Israel is surrounded by their enemies. And, of course, this, like I said, listening to the rhetoric of Erdogan about, you want a war between the cross and the crescent, the cross, they referring to Christianity. So, they're drawing us into it because most true believers support Israel, because of the commandment that Elohim gave concerning Abraham. I'll bless those who bless you and I'll curse those who curse you. And, so we need to stand with Israel. We need to pray for them and the peace of Jerusalem, the peace of Israel. And, for our own sakes, for our own peace. Because what they're doing, they're defending in a kind of a backdoor way. They're defending us too. Because there's a lot of Christians over there in Israel. There's a lot of, Messianic Jews, converted people that have converted to Christ. And then more all the time. Because now they begin to see that this prophecy is coming to pass right in front of them. A lot of the secular people, didn't believe one way or the other. They didn't believe in Judaism. They don't believe in Christianity. They don't believe in nothing. Atheists or whatever. This stuff is starting to, and like I said, I've said before, people say, I wish I lived in biblical times. Well, welcome to biblical times, buddy, because you're living in biblical times. And all the more. And we're seeing, whenever you see that these terrorist groups and all are delivered into the hands of Israel and they, get rid of them. And then we're going to see it. I mean, Hamas, Israel is going to eliminate them. And good riddance. Those people, they don't just, and they're over here. All these people that have been coming across our border, and not only that, but now our government, man, all these mass shootings, a lot of that stuff, I believe, is these people they've been using mind control on these people and stuff like that. I mean, like that guy in Maine, they said, he's had, mental problems, hearing voices. He put these hearing aids in and stuff and began to hear these voices and all that kind of stuff. And I've talked about the technology for them to be able to start, putting thoughts in your mind, speaking to your mind. That's why we You know, the Father didn't give us a spirit of fear and, you know, but of a sound mind and, you know, no fear, but of peace and a sound mind. And we have to believe that, or else they'll come at our minds too. And they're getting, you know, I mean, you're starting to see this stuff everywhere. These mass shootings and stuff, it's all by design. Because it makes people more and more sympathetic towards the anti-gun lobby. Okay, and once they, you know, if they do manage to take away people's guns and start seizing their guns, all these people that have been coming across this border down here, I mean, and all you got to do is, if you can pull up some, you know, video footage of the people coming in them caravans and stuff, they're mostly young men. And they're from all over the world. Think about this. What if they get all them people in here and then they say, oh, we're going to build the wall, and they put the wall up, and then there's not going to be no way for us to go anywhere. I can tell you that right now. To retreat or to escape. And if we're disarmed, they'll be able to do whatever they want. I mean, and a lot of these, you know, and the FBI openly admits these Hamas terrorist cells here, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, you know, I mean, they're here. They're already here. They've been here. And you hear them saying, well, you know, Iran, you know, we can unleash, you know, and Hamas and them saying, yeah, we can, you know, you ain't going to escape it. We can unleash it on you too. Talking about the United States. And that's why, you know, it says that calls this the time of Jacob's trouble. The time of Israel's trouble. And it's not just the Jews. It's talking about the house of Israel too. The time of Jacob's trouble. The time of Israel's trouble. So we're not going to escape the terrorism and all that. Not just domestic. I'm talking about this, you know, terrorism from groups like in our government, people in our government, this president and these people up there in Congress and in the Senate and the deep state, they know it and they allowed it. Because they're in league with these dark powers. I mean, it's obvious that they are being controlled satanically and demonically. And I mean, they determined to let millions and millions more of them in here. I mean, oh, you're a racist, you know, because you call it out. Well, all them people that are saying you're racist and you're, you know, a phobe or whatever of some kind, they ain't gonna be saying that whenever these people are terrorizing them too. These brainwashed people, these liberal brainwashed people in the universities and all that are calling, and they are supporting Hamas, and Hamas murdered, I'm talking about slaughtered, 1,400 people, beheading babies, burning them. I mean, and all kinds of other atrocities. And they got this tunnel network over 300 miles of tunnels. Money that was supposed to be for the Palestinian people there. You know, I mean, and this is the ironic, this is what's really stupid and crazy. They've got some of the most prime, beautiful, that territory right there, you know, Gaza is one of the most beautiful prime places on the Mediterranean. I mean, they could be just thriving. They could be in Israel. They haven't occupied that area since 2007. They pulled out of there in 2007 and they haven't been back. And these people elected Hamas, and them people, Hamas, used the Palestinian people as human shields and would not let Israel try, you know, sent the message out, dropped leaflets telling them, the Palestinian people, go to the south, of Gaza, go to down to the down there to the border with Egypt, and the Egyptians refused to allow these people to come into Egypt. These people that are trying to the civilians that are trying to get out. No other people in the world, no other army, no other people would do this. They would have just went in there and they would have. United States, we ain't we've been somewhat give people notice, tell them to get out and all that kind of stuff, but they ain't nobody else does. Anybody else, they would have not told them to get out, to go south, that we're going to bomb this place. No. But Israel, more than any other country in the world, goes out of its way to prevent harm to civilians and to, hospitals and stuff like that. And Hamas has built their, under one of the biggest hospitals they got there in Gaza, they've built their command center right under it, which is a violation of the Geneva Convention. Combatants, armies are supposed to be in, on bases. But no, they've built this tunnel system all under Gaza City there, 300 miles of it. And it's under all of these hospitals, schools, and they will take these people. They would not allow, Hamas would not allow these people that wanted to go south. They wouldn't allow them. They stopped them, seized their vehicles. But the mainstream media, you won't hear them saying that. What you hear them saying is there needs to be a ceasefire. You need to stop. That ought to tell you where these people are at. They are complicit with it. They want the destruction of Israel. And that's why it says the whole world will come against Israel. The whole world. Down to the Valley of Decision. The Valley of Jezreel. They'll be gathered there to come up against Jerusalem. They are determined to destroy them. And despite all the people in the West saying, condemning it and all what Hamas done and all that, really they don't believe it. They just taking that's optics. But it's funny how quickly they forget how they came in there. They launched almost 5,000 rockets into Israel. Into civilian areas, not against military installations or military bases, but against civilian, and every day the people of Israel have to evacuate millions of Jews into bomb shelters because Hamas is still continuously throwing these rockets in there. And not only that, but Hezbollah and the Houthis down in Yemen, they've been doing it too. And the U.S., one of the U.S.'s destroyers over there has been intercepting a lot of these drones and missiles that are coming from down there in Yemen and shooting them down. Think about this. What if every day Canada and Mexico, Cuba, the islands down there, what if every day they just kept, and from down in, Central and South America down there, in the northern part of Central and South America, they was lobbing bombs over here at hospitals and schools. How would we like it? And would we not think that we had the right to defend ourselves against it? And Israel has tried to get along with them people. And helped them. Give them, and then they take the money that Israel has gave to them And they buy weapons to use against Israel. Same thing with this money that our government has unfroze money that was Iran's money. And it's, oh, you can't use that for anything. It's got to be for humanitarian purposes or whatever. And Iran says, oh, sure. It's our money. We're going to use it for whatever we want. And, of course, they, all they have to do is oh, well, now we got this extra $6 billion. Well, they just take the money from that they were going to spend on this other stuff, for their people or whatever, and use it now, so, well, we didn't use that money for that. But they re-earmarked the money that was supposed to be for, this stuff, and instead use it to make and manufacture more and more weapons. And, the International Atomic Energy Agency and the United Nations, the U.S., Europe, they all saying that, Iran is within a month of having nuclear weapons. And they have sworn that they will use them to destroy Israel. Well, I got news for people. I just cannot see Israel allowing that. I mean, they've done told them, you're not going to get them because it's, if you get them, and the thing is Israel is a nuclear power. They have nuclear weapons. And, if they were like Iran, the way they think and the way they act, they would have probably already done nuked them. But they have shown great restraint, despite the fact that they, that it is blatantly obvious that Iran is behind every bit of the terrorism and all that is been, and these, people harassing Israel nonstop. But yet, nobody condemns them. And when you look at the United Nations, they got more resolutions condemning Israel than the rest of the world combined. But they don't condemn China, they don't condemn North Korea, they don't condemn Iran, they don't condemn all these, human rights abuses by these countries. But they certainly, all Israel has to do is drop their hat and they condemn them. That's because of their hatred. Their hatred for Elohim and his anointed. And so we, as believers, if you truly believe this, what this says, then we have to stand with them. Because it's not just a war against them, it's a war against believers. Christians. And of course it tells us there in Revelation, it says that whenever the dragon, the dragon gets cast back down here, in his wrath, he's going to make war against the saints. And it says that he's given power to overcome them. And, and the Messiah told us in Matthew 24, and Luke 21, and I think it's in verse 24, 25. Pray that ye be counted worthy to escape these things that are coming upon the earth and to stand before the Son of Man. Well, he's talking about, being able to be hidden, to taken to a place of safety. It ain't saying to be taken out of the world. Because there is going to be a place of safety. And but you know, you're gonna have to be found worthy. And so, because it's coming. I mean, all you know, everything that we see going on right now is all. And cats, I believe I got a little allergy going on. My nose is itching. But you know, we see this stuff all converging, and it's all centered around Israel. I mean, Ukraine and all that, it's all tied in with it. I mean, it's, you know, it's tied, you know, Israel is the center of it all. And, you know, of course, you got people, you know, in like Zelensky saying, "Oh yeah, we're with Israel," you know. They're not with anybody. They're just as wicked and evil as the Russians, you know, the Putin and all. I mean, they it's just trying to get brownie points and, you know, trying to insert themselves into the situation so that people don't forget about Ukraine. Because all the focus is now on Israel and getting them money and getting them weapons and stuff, and been taken off of Ukraine. And of course they're trying to say, hey, we're here holding the Russians, and of course the Russians, have openly come out and, condemned Israel, for defending themselves. And these people saying, well, they don't really, they're occupiers. They don't really have the right to defend themselves. Well, it's a rewriting of history. Again, these people, we see this all the time. Here in the U.S., these people, these revisionists, historical revisionists, always want to try to rewrite the true history of things as the way they really were and they really are. And of course, the scripture tells us that would be the spirit of this age, that they seek to change times and the traditions and days and laws, and they try to twist everything and change everything from what it really is, to distort reality. And of course, people that are blind, they are spiritually blind. They don't see this. They're seeing what their deceived mind is letting them see. And so they don't understand the significance of this, of what's going on over there, that is prophesied. He tells us the end from the beginning. I mean, it's, all of this. And like I say, here in, the chapter 49 of Isaiah, I'm going to read it here. It says, "Listen, O isles, unto me, and hearken, ye people from far. The Lord hath called me from the womb. From the bowels of my mother hath he made mention of my name. And he hath made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand hath he hid me. And made me a polished shaft. In his quiver hath he hid me. And said unto me, Thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified. Then I said, I have labored in vain. I have spent my strength for naught and in vain. Yet surely my judgment is with the Lord, and my work with my God. And now saith Yahweh that formed me from the womb, to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him. Though Israel be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of Yahweh, and my Elohim shall be my strength. And he said, It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant, to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved of Israel. He said he would preserve a remnant of his people. Not just the Jews, but the house of Israel as well. You know, there's there may be some people from the house of Israel that are over there. I mean, I know there were some that left from the northern kingdom and went down to Judah because of their idolatry and stuff. So there is some of them. But the scattered Israel, the scattered house of Israel, that got scattered and became a multitude of nations and numbers that are like the stars of heaven. They are going to be a remnant of them that are going to be saved. But that's what it's saying here. It says thus saith. It says I will. It says and he said, it is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved of Israel. I will also give for thee a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth. And it's talking about Israel and the Messiah. It's talking about Israel, Jacob, the people of Israel. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles. Well, it was Jews that gave that light, the apostles and the early Christians, to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth, to all people. Thus saith the Lord, the Redeemer of Israel and his Holy One, Jesus Christ. To him whom man despiseth, to him whom the nation abhorreth, to a servant of rulers, kings shall see and arise, princes also shall worship, because of Yahweh that is faithful, and the Holy One of Israel, and he shall choose thee. Thus saith the Lord, in an acceptable time have I heard thee, and in a day of salvation have I helped thee. And I will preserve thee and give thee for a covenant of the people, to establish the earth, to cause to inherit the desolate heritage, that thou mayest say to the prisoners, go forth, to show them that are in darkness, show yourselves. They shall feed in the ways, and their pastures shall be in all high places. They shall not hunger nor thirst, neither shall the heat nor sun smite them. For he that hath mercy on them shall lead them. Even by the springs of water shall he guide them. And I will make all my mountains a way, and my highways shall be exalted. Behold, these shall come from afar, and lo, from the north and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim. Sing, O heavens, and be joyful, O earth, and break forth into singing, O mountains, for Yahweh hath comforted his people, and will have mercy upon his afflicted. But Zion said, Yahweh hath forsaken me, and my Lord hath forgotten me. Can a woman forget her sucking child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yea, they may forget, yet will I not forget thee. Behold, I have graven thee upon the palms of my hands. Thy walls are continually before me. Thy children shall make haste, thy destroyers, and they that made thee waste shall go forth of thee. Lift up thine eyes round about, and behold, all these gather themselves together and come to thee. As I live, saith the Lord, thou shalt surely clothe thee with them all, as with an ornament, and bind them on thee as a bride doeth. For thy waste and thy desolate places, and the land of thy destruction, shall even now be too narrow by reason of the inhabitants, and they that swallowed thee up shall be far away. The children which thou shalt have after thou hast lost the other shall say again in thine ears, the place is too strait for me. give place to me that I may dwell. Then shalt thou say in thine heart, Who hath begotten me these? Seeing I have lost my children and am desolate, a captive, and removing to and fro. And who hath brought up these? Behold, I was left alone. These where had they been? Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people, and they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. And kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. Shall the prey be taken from the mighty, or the lawful captive delivered? But thus saith Yahweh, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey of the terrible shall be delivered. For I will contend with him that contendeth with thee, and I will save thy children, and I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh, and they shall be drunken with their own blood as with sweet wine, and all flesh shall know that I, the Lord, am the Savior and the Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob, or Israel. And that's what we're beginning to see. You know, he's going to use Israel as a means to show the whole world that he is. I mean, they're going to know that he is the one who has delivered them out of the hands of their enemies, and will, you know, even though because of their blindness and their unbelief in the Messiah, they're still going to suffer for it. They, you know, like I said a while ago, it talks about how the olive tree will be, you know, shaken like in a really mighty wind, to where there's just a few fruit out on the far branches, and on the boughs, you know, the fruitful boughs will be thin. I mean, they're going to lose, you know, Israel's going to suffer some great losses in this conflict, these series of conflicts, because this is just, you know, it's not going to stop. And I believe, like I said last time, that I believe that this is going to be the thing that will bring about the appearance of the Antichrist. This here is going to be the thing that causes him to come onto the scene. And so, you know, we can see, I mean, that you know, prophecy is being fulfilled right before our very eyes. And of course, there's a sequence of events and all that have to happen, you know, that precede the coming of the Messiah. You know, I mean, that happened before then. And, you know, I know that for a lot of people, you know, this is, man, they just have dread. But, you know, we can't. We have to be, you know, fearless. We have to be, you know, fearless in the Messiah. Because he is the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and the Captain of the host. He is a mighty warrior. And if he be for us, who can be against us? And, you know, even in death. Because it's, you know, we don't need to be fearing that which can destroy this body, because we're going, you know, I've said it before, we're going to die sooner or later anyway. You know, it's appointed unto all men to die, and thereafter the judgment, you know, or the resurrection to judgment, or to life, depending on how you live. But He don't give us, if we really truly are in the body of Christ and we are filled with the Ruach, then we don't have, this mind that is full of fear and looking after those things which are coming upon the earth. No, we should become more bold as we see these things happening, because we know that the soon appearing of the Messiah is near. He said, when you begin to see these things come to pass, lift up your head and look up, for your redemption draweth near. So that's what we should be thinking about, and we should be praying for those people over in Israel, for those that have not had their eyes opened up yet, and they will. Paul said they are blind now, they don't see, but there will come a time when their eyes will be open. And of course they will be, the remnant of them will escape. There in Matthew 24, it says, when you see these things, the armies surrounding Jerusalem, and, these things begin to come to pass, escape. Flee from, Judea. And of course, at this point, when that happens, I believe that Israel will be in control of territory that they're not in control of right now. That's, I think that they will, whenever this ring of fire that's around them, Hezbollah and Syria and Jordan and Yemen and all them, I think that Israel's going to take all of them and expand their territory. And of course, the world ain't going to like it. The world's not going to like it at all. Arizona tea. They're not going to like it. And that's when they really going to be sitting back preparing to come against Israel. Through the lawless one and his ruling coalition of 10 kings is going to, because they're going to say among themselves, come, let us go to among those who are without walls and without gates and bars, and take a spoil. Well, right now, Israel is not without gates and bars and walls. It's one of the most heavily fortified countries in the world. So in order for that to happen, that's going to mean that they are going to be, it says, they who are at peace in the without walls and without gates and bars. So that's got to be future. And it's going to be after they, take care of their enemies, and they got this expanded territory, that they're going to say, we can be at peace now because we don't have all these enemies surrounding us. But again, and of course there's prophecies about Elam being laid waste, because that's where all them nuclear facilities that Iran has over there is Elam. They got these nuclear power plants that Russia's building over there. They built, and they got a reactor in there, and of course the Iranians are using that uranium that's for that reactor. They're just using it to try and enrich it and make a nuclear bomb. And as I said, I just don't think Israel's going to allow that. I don't think they're going to just directly, invade Iran or something like that. No, I just think they'll destroy their facilities. And they won't nuke them. They'll just hit them with, bunker busters and, MOABs or something. The massive ordnance air blast bombs. Because, I'm sure we've given them some to Israel, because they're the largest conventional weapons that we have in our inventory. Like a 30,000 pound bomb. And, they're as far as conventional weapons go, they're as powerful as they get. But and it even talks about that, I mean, about Elam, getting, because you got to understand that Iran is made up of the ancient kingdom of Elam and Persia. They were two separate kingdoms over there. And so Elam was in the southwestern part of Iran on the Persian Gulf. And so, and you see all these other players, like China, they've got bases now in Africa and places like that they've, got beyond their own territory. And they also have been working out agreements with these African countries and in Middle Eastern countries to build naval bases over there. And so there's some of the Chinese Navy sent some of their smaller ships over there. Because really their aircraft carriers ain't really nothing to write home about. I think they got 2 right now, and they're building more. I mean, they ain't letting up on building, but they're really nothing as of now. And so it's true, that Israel has become a cup of trembling and a stumbling stone for the world, and the only solution to it really all is the return of the Messiah. But there's going to be, the time of Jacob's trouble, and we're seeing it. And of course, the British Commonwealth and the United States, we're going to suffer. And the United States is going to suffer because it turned back on God. I mean, we've turned our back on Him. And of course, in Leviticus chapter 26 and Deuteronomy chapter 28, I mean, it tells what happens when you turn your back on Him. And, that these things will start happening to you. And not only that, but the sin, like the sin of our indebtedness, it makes us a slave. We're enslaved. And it's a different kind of, it ain't the kind of slavery like where, somebody comes in and takes you over, and marches you off in chains back to their country or somewhere else. It's a different kind of slavery, but it's slavery just the same. It is economic slavery. And of course the chains is going to be the chip in the forehead or in your hand, and, the control over all of the economic means through digital currency and stuff like that. The allowing, they just keep printing money up there. I mean, to where once the dollar loses its reserve currency status, we're going to have a collapse like the world's never seen. And of course, when that happens, then people will do whatever whatever they tell them to do. People will be willing to do it in order to get food or whatever. And then not to mention the fact that they are adulterating all the food and going to have it to where there ain't going to be no food. The ground will not be able to produce food anymore because all the plants will have been genetically contaminated and genetically altered, and of course they will contaminate everything, and they'll give up on being, they won't be able to reproduce. They'll be sterile, and that's just how crazy these people are that are demonic, or Nephilim and stuff. I mean, eugenicists like Bill Gates, these people that believe that if you're not one of them, on board with like Nazism, the kind of stuff where we want to make a pure race, Aryan race or whatever. I mean, that's their thinking, And if you ain't on board with that, then you need to go, is the way they look at it. And of course, I ain't on board with it. I mean, you know, Elohim says he's no respect of persons. I don't care who you are, whether you're Jew, whether you're Gentile, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Chinese, it don't make no difference. If you don't accept the Messiah, you know, his propitiation for our transgressions and sins, then you're nothing. You don't, you know, it don't mean nothing. It don't mean a thing. I mean, because, you know, unless you are in the Messiah, then he will acknowledge them. But those who are not, you just another fallen human being in rebellion against the Most High. And they are. And so I just kind of, I know I get kind of a little fired up about this, but you know, it really is, you know, people need to take note of what's going on here, that this is biblical, and the hatred that you see is an unnatural, it's not a natural hatred. I mean, it is almost on the border of maniacal. And of course, that can be nothing else but demonic and satanic. I mean, even, you know, sinners, you know, human sinners in the normal do not have that kind of hatred. That kind of hatred is always driven by the demonic and the satanic. Always. Because humans, I don't believe that humans, you know, they may have hatreds and stuff, but they're not on that kind of level of hatred as a rule. It's only whenever it's being driven by the satanic and the demonic. You know, just, I mean, it's just unnatural, an unnatural hatred. And so, you know, it's only going to increase. And it's going to be directed at us too. I mean, you listen to these, you know, the kind of stuff that they're saying about this guy, Mike Johnson, that's the new Speaker of the House up there. And I mean, he's openly professes Jesus Christ, you know, and they don't like it. I mean, they you know, they don't say nothing about, you know, his policies or his political side of things. No, it's all about him being a Christian. Ooh, you know, a fundamentalist Christian. We can't have that. Oh, but you can be a Muslim. You can be anything else. You don't see him calling out Talita Rashid and Omar and all them, you know, Muslims. You know, and they're always putting their religion and all right out there in your face. But that's okay. Just can't be a Christian. So you can see the attack against Christians is coming from every direction. It ain't just from them people, you know, the Muslims or, you know, other religions. I mean, it's just coming from everywhere. You know, and I mean, so we got to stand with Israel and, you know, in prayer. I mean, we got to stand with him in prayer. And it could come down to where we end up having to be, you know, we're in actual battle. You know, I mean, fighting for our lives. You know, I don't know. But I think it's going to come down to that. That's why it says, you know, he declares, you know, this Antichrist, the beast declares war against the saints. I mean, I believe that's literally. And he's given power to overcome them. So, you know, we have to be prepared for that. And be, you know, praying that we're counted worthy to escape it. And so with that, folks, I'm going to end it there. I love you folks. Thank you for watching my videos and stuff. You know, it's all about learning and you know, the scripture about the truth. You know, I mean, this is the only source of truth. Let every man be a liar and Elohim be the truth. Because, you know, yeah, I mean, there are people that sometimes they, you know, seculars or whatever, people or unbelievers who do speak truth, because there are things that are self-evidently true. You know, the sky's blue, grass is green. I mean, these kind of things are, you know, as Benjamin Franklin said, they're truisms. They're kind of things that are self-evidently true. But I'm talking about when it comes to spiritual truth. The kind of truth that transcends time, space, and humanity. You know, the kind of truth that can only come from our Creator. You'll find it nowhere else but there in the Scriptures. And again, people are blinded, you know, they're given over to these reprobate minds and over to the strong delusion because they would not receive the truth. They don't want the truth. It's like I said a while ago, it ain't about truth, it's about narrative. And, you know, this truth here spoils the narrative, and they don't want that. They want their global government, they want their their God ran world order or whatever. That's what they want. And so that's why these people, you know, because you would think, you know, when you know, kind of just sit down and think about it, you know, why would, you know, people that have children and grandchildren and mothers and dads and brothers and sisters, why would they go along with something like that? Why would they, you know, get up there on, you know, MSNBC or CNN or whatever, you know, and get up there and spout these lies? And I mean, just keep propagating this narrative. It doesn't matter how much truth that is, you know, brought out. I mean, they cannot deny it, but they will not acknowledge it. They will never acknowledge the truth. They will continue to pump out their narrative. Even when they get like CNN, you know, having to shut down their world headquarters and down to something like, you know, their viewership's gone down 90% in like the last 2 years. I mean, through the weekend, I think they only had like 100,000 views, you know, for the whole weekend, for all their shows. I mean, that just goes to show you how far they've fallen, but it doesn't matter. They're going to continue to pump out the establishment narrative that's handed down to them every day from over at Langley, CIA headquarters over there. That, you know, they're pumping out the deep state's message. And they're going to, you know, you're going to tell this, you're going to tell it the way we tell you to tell it, or we'll destroy your career, or we'll kill you. I mean, that's just where we're at. And it's only people who, you know, want to close their ears up and put blinders on, you know, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, you know, head in the sand, that won't acknowledge it. You know, and the way that evil, you know, is able to thrive is when people don't do anything, don't say anything. When, you know, when good people refuse to do anything, to stand up, then evil will take over. And, you know, and that's why we see this accelerating. I mean, they're getting bolder and bolder and bolder. You know, evil is. And chaos. And of course, I've said, about chaos, out of chaos order, that's how they usher in this Antichrist, or, the lawless one, the beast, is ushered in because of all the chaos, because he comes on the scene and I can make peace, and I can, I can do this and I can do that. Just think about that. I mean, see, just think about that, and who it sounds like that makes these claims and stuff. I may be wrong. Don't want to wrongfully, accuse people of being something they're not, but, I just think that all these things that are going on, the homelessness, the drugs, the fentanyl, that's been killing all these people over here, the border crisis, these mass shootings, the lawlessness that's being allowed to happen without any kind of ramifications for it by these leftist DAs, these George Soros funded DAs, is all by design, so that people will become so wore down. I mean, like I read, from that letter by Albert Pike, that was the idea, was to wear people down. And it wasn't saying, the scripture says that they seek to wear down the saints. Everything is designed to wear us down into submission. And so if we understand this, if we know that that's the objective, is to wear us down into submission to their system, then all the more we need to be praying, fasting, and standing steadfast on the word of Elohim and resisting it. Resist the devil and he'll flee from you. That's how you get rid of him. That's how you stand, is to resist it. And that's what I'm calling all believers, resist it. Resist the evil. Stand up to the evil. And it'll flee. Expose it to the light. Don't be afraid to call it out. And, because we're called to be, light and to expose the evil and what their intentions are, what they're planning, what they're doing. And that's what I'm doing. I'm telling you, look at how this is all playing out. I mean, if you look at how everything's kind of all these things are kind of, coming together all at one time. Everything that the scriptures has said would happen, it's all happening right together. And it is to bring this false Messiah onto the scene and ultimately try and lead the world. Because when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction cometh upon them. I mean, that's exactly what it's going to lead to. Because whenever this entity jumps up and says he's God and, tries to make people worship him and all that, there's a lot of these countries and stuff like that, they ain't going to go for it. They're not going to go for that. They're going to be, they're going to start massing up and all that. And of course this, the kings of the north, that are aligned with this entity, they're going to, be already amassed, into a mighty army and military and political and economic might. And so I think that that's what's going to come up from it. I think it's going to, because of all of this going on, it's going to cause a certain country to, say, hey man, we got to do something. The horde's almost at our doorstep, so they're going to arm up and and create this alliance, this 10 nation, 10 king alliance. And it's going to be, and it's probably going to be the United States is going to go into a decline. I mean, in militarily, I mean, our military is not what people think it is. It's been just, woke, and these people up there that's supposed to be our military leaders, they don't care. I mean, the money that we've spent on it and all that stuff, I mean, and, thinking that you can just, have this woke army of transgenders and homosexuals and everything else, and send them out there, to the battlefront, no. You got to have hardened men, warriors, and they ain't it. They've about run out all of the warriors, the true fighting men, with their threats of these, that poison shot and everything else that they're doing. I mean, it's, caused all kinds of people to just, get out just as soon as they could, as soon as their time was up. They're leaving. They don't want to be a part of that. And so America's going to go. But anyway, enough with my rant. I love you folks. I hope you'll be blessed. It's my prayer that you will, and that you will come to greater understanding and truth. And I'm going to close it up here, and I will see you folks again on the next Shabbat, if Yahweh is willing.